Hello, you beautiful beings. Feels so delicious. That's a funny word. It just feels really, delicious to share from the heart, to share the juiciness and the richness of experience. And right now, for me, I'm feeling lots of pressure in my heart, pressure and pain. But underneath that, there's like this exquisite, nectary, divine, loving, pleasurable energy. It's always like underneath like the most intense kind of pain is like, like the nectar of the gods, right? That's why if you've ever moved through something super heavy, whether it's grief or a ton of rage or terror, you'll notice like right on the other side is like this opening into this like exquisiteness, this Amrita. Amrita can be known as like this orgasmic, divine energy. And so, this is super present in my body. Spending time with my twin flame, it's very much profound how much light the twin flame connection holds, how much light you and your twin can cultivate. And so with that much light, a lot of the shadow and subconscious programming and pain and darkness is exposed. And so in this moment I'm just trying to stay with like the pressure. It's like a pressure cooker. Kundalini is it's its own pressure cooker. Just awakening in general is a pressure cooker, right? And then the twin flame journey is another just intense pressure cooker. And so for me, I notice it brings up deep-rooted rage and anger. And how my heart can feel overwhelmed sometimes by the nature of a connection like this, and how it's so important to take times to be with what's coming up, to take the space. Because it's like, on a spiritual level, the twin flame connection or Kundalini, any of these things that put you in the pressure cooker, it's such a huge blessing. But it's just like learning like, okay, this is a lot for the body. And that's why this video is so alchemical for me. Like these videos, they help me move energy, they help me heal, they help me clear space for myself. And in making them, if I happen to help a lot of you or some of you, that's like an added bonus, right? It's like first and foremost, they help this heart, they help this energy field. And by doing that, it helps the one, right? It's like whenever we're in service to self, we're also in service to the one, because we're all interconnected. So this is both. It's service to self because it's helping me clear energy, but it's also I'm in service to the one too. I mean, that's just a different perspective on giving, right? When we give to ourselves, we give to all. So it's like these videos when I'm just very authentic and vulnerable, and there's less of this spiritual egoic agenda. These videos are like in service to my own heart. They're giving to my own heart. And there's still that underlying egoic stuff. Like my ego, of course, it always wants to come across a certain way to get a certain feedback, right? That feels good to the spiritual ego. But the more I actually have experienced that, I found like that it is not lasting, it's fleeting. And the good stuff is actually in sharing what's real and being fully vulnerable and sort of exposed and on your edge. And opening yourself up to judgment and criticism and people telling you, you should do this, you shouldn't do that, right? And for people to kind of project their own stuff on you maybe. It's like, because that's what starts happening. I've noticed the more real I get, the more kind of I might trigger people. The more honest I get about the more honest I get about what's actually happening in my life and in my awakening experience, the more I realize that I'm going to get all kinds of responses. And I'm not in control of any of it. And that's super hard to really surrender into, and it takes time, and I'm on my way, I'm like on the path to doing that, right? Where when I was first shooting videos, it was kind of all about like kind of protecting my heart. I wanted to look like this spiritual being that was maybe had it all figured out, love and light, all of this kind of stuff, right? But now that I'm deepening, I'm going down and into my own body, into the deep stuff. Actually, the richest experience I can have doing this is just like burying it all and bringing light to it all. Because if it's in me, it's in you, right? And any judgments coming my way, it's always, of course, about that person, right? It's never even about me and my process. Yeah, so I just feel lots of pressure. And with all that other stuff I was saying, it's like really important, like, do I respect and love me? And if anyone's ever judging you and it sticks, you might notice like you might be judging yourself in that spot. You might be believing that about yourself. So if someone judges you and it brings up shame and guilt, like if you're giving a genuine heart-centered expression and just sharing your honesty and someone kind of judges you, or you feel attacked by it, by someone, and it triggers shame and guilt, you can just kind of know like, oh, thank you so much for that judgment. Like they're just source dressed up in disguise as a judgmental person towards your process or whatever. And you can just like thank them, like thank you for bringing up these parts of me that were separate from truth, that were separate from love. And it's just an opportunity to transmute more shame and pain and guilt and all of these stuff, all these lies from your body. It's just an opportunity to see where you're still giving your power to a belief system rooted in separation and fear, right? It's just an opportunity to see where you're still condemning yourself, where you're still seeing yourself as wrong or bad, right? Because when you're fully integrated in those areas, like a lot of times people will cast a judgment towards me, and I was just kind of like, oh, I love you, you know. It's just right by, because I'm in those areas, I'm integrated. Because you won't even feel it. You'll immediately know it's about what they've got going on in their process, and you'll just wish them love. You'll just send them blessings. I'm getting a lot of chills right now. Because you'll just know immediately, it's because it's not real in your body, because you'll just instantly, there's just like this recognition, like you can't even feel shame and guilt over it, even if you wanted to. But I notice when some people will bring a judgment to me about what I'm saying or my life, and I feel it, I feel like a pain about it, or I feel a shame or a guilt, I'll know, oh, cool, life is showing me where I'm still entangled in a lie. Life is helping liberate me from another heavy, unconscious belief system. Just more of this like programming that's been a burden for me to carry around. So it's like, thank you for that judgment that's helping liberate myself from this heaviness. And you know what? Those judgments wouldn't have even had the chance to come in if I wasn't so opened up and vulnerable and real. So it's like, it's actually a gift when you're that open, because you can actually receive the judgments that'll show you where you're still entangled in lies and separation and things that just aren't serving your highest. And maybe they did at one time, but now you're ready to let go of them. So it's like, even when you're honest and vulnerable and you do get hurt, it's like, that's part of the gift of being honest and vulnerable, is in the getting the hurt, is in feeling judged and attacked, and it bringing up all the shame and the guilt and the pain and stuff, right? Because then your field gets fortified. You start seeing through all the lies. And I think that's why someone like Jesus, when they were, you hear about it when they were crucifying him, he was saying, forgive them. They know not what they're doing. I mean, he could literally be on a cross and sending the people who were stringing him up on the cross, he could literally be loving them in that moment. A lot of chills again, like so much grace and chill saying that. And that's what I was saying it becomes, is like when you start to feel whole and when you're integrated in all those areas, people can say whatever they want about you and you're just like, oh, thank you, that tells me a lot about you. Not even in a degrading way, but just like that tells me a lot about your process and what you're going through. And it's like you can send them love in that area. You can transmit that kind of love to them in that area, because it's not personal. You're not getting involved in it, because you see right through that stuff, because you're healed there. You're no longer in belief. You're no longer, involved in those belief systems of judgments and bad and good and right and wrong and should and shouldn't. Or as one of my spiritual healers said, bullshits. Those are bullshitants. It's just bullshit. All that stuff, bullshit, right? So anytime anyone's telling you should or shouldn't do something, it's just like, that's their own inner critic, actually. That's their own stuff, right? Or they're telling you something about your process. It's like, that's their own self-condemning voice. That's probably not even their own. That's just probably their mom or their dad's, and it's their mom's it's just like that inner critic's super strong, especially in Western culture. It's just rooted, and it's all rooted in unworthiness, actually. So it's really the criticisms or judgments that come your way, whether it doesn't have to be doing something like this, it could be from family or friends or culture. It's just like once you start healing the unworthiness wound within you, and you start bringing love to all these parts of you that you once thought were so unlovable, you become really kind of invincible, and other people's stuff that they might project on you, it slides right off. But it's a process to get to that place, and I'm not fully there by any means, right? Not by any means. So anyways, yeah, this twin flame connection, it's bringing up a lot of like rage in the heart, because that's what's really the most suppressed in my body is rage, and it's been one that I've had difficulties with learning how to accept. Rage is a feeling for me that's always been one that I'll resist the most. And so I know this twin flame connection is such a gift. In that way, it's helping me make friends with my rage, with my subconscious programming. And this connection is so loving, and there's so much space and so much grace in it. It's like a really good container. I mean, in the past it can be more volatile, but it's evolved to the place it's at now. So this container can really hold it better. There's a lot more this space. So yeah. There's this little voice that, I'll just end the video by saying this. There's like this little voice that's like wanted me to maybe stay with the pressure more and go slower. But it's so fun just like, teaching and bringing stuff through, that when I sit down, that's what I'm learning too, is like trying to just learn how to stay with what's real, even if it wants to go super slow. Because there's a part of me sometimes that's like, no, but we need to. And I think I'll work on that going forward, especially being here with my twin flame. the stuff that's coming up is really intense, and it's hard to have words for it quite yet. It's hard to kind of express and explain what I'm feeling, because it's like so deep. It's like I'm hitting into some depths of my body that I don't hit on anywhere else except with being with my twin, because there's so much light, you know, and the light's so piercing, and it's just so like, it's like a spotlight, so like, you know, revealing and illuminating. So I think while I'm spending time with her here and making videos going forward, is I'm going to try to go slower and really let the pain that this connection is evoking, I'm going to let that pain and that shadow part of me, that part of me that hasn't been seen, I'm going to try to let it be seen a little bit more on the videos. I'm going to experiment with that. And that's scary though too, because I don't know what it's going to say, you know? I don't know what it's going to say. Those might be Patreon videos. Might be like, all right, that's for a small group. I like the Patreon for that. It's like, small group time. All right. I love you guys. Sending you so much love. I think, yeah, that feels good. See you in the next video. Namaste.